I was so frustrated with the design after working so long. I actually stopped working on it for like 4 months and then came back. I don't know. I think on a mountain bike ride, I came up with the idea and I came back months later and then completely redid the whole thing from scratch. It ended up being an entirely different product. But you have to do things for a long period of time in order to find out if they're going to work for you. Just like it's like a pair of shoes. It's the same thing. Like you can wear a pair of shoes for a little bit and it's going to be fine. But you wear a pair of shoes all day long, even for 3 or 4 hours, and you're going to find out, are they going to hold up and are your feet going to be happy with how they perform. But backpacks are the same thing. You have to push to an endurance level.
Welcome to Venture Step Podcast, we discuss entrepreneurship, industry trends, and the occasional book review. I'm your host, Dalton Anderson. Today on this episode, we have Josh Sprague. Josh took a hotel sewing needle, a ratchet strap, and a gun holster and created Orange Mud. Orange Mud is an endurance brand that's been thriving for more than 13 years now. Since then, Josh has founded multiple companies. By obsessing over problems he's not willing to accept while others are. Today, we break down innovation, bootstrapping, endurance, and how AI is changing how entrepreneurs build on a day-to-day. Let's get into it. Hey, Josh, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me on, Dalton. Appreciate it.
So the podcast episode is really going to dive into a couple things. And one of the main ones is bootstrapping and creating a company and passion-based brands. And one of the first ones that you've created was Orange Mud. Do you want to tell us on like how did that even come about and just the background of how that got started?
Sure. So I spent a lot of years racing marathons and Ironman and regular triathlons and mountain bike racing, adventure racing, pretty much anything you can imagine. And after slogging through countless events, I always hated waist belts because they squeeze your waist and they're just uncomfortable. And a lot of times you feel the water all flopping around. And then I hated handhelds because I've never understood why anybody wants to run with a handheld. Granted, I've designed to at this point, and I like them. I won't run with them because I don't like handhelds still as a category, but a lot of people do. But on top of that, a lot of backpacks were too hot. They would rub you. They wouldn't carry the right things in the right places. And so after many years adventure racing and staring at my teammates' backs, I just had this idea from watching how a back moves on a body and how the upper piece of the back is more stable than the middle and the lower piece. And I thought, man, if I just build a water bottle based pack, something simple during a marathon or a triathlon or road training or just your standard lunchtime run, I could have a water bottle and my phone, nutrition, keys, wallet, maybe cash for a beer garden after a race, whatever. And that's all I wanted. It was simple. And so one night after a training run, this wasn't long after I just finished my second Ironman and really hated a lot of the long runs just because I didn't like to carry stuff. I went into my garage and I destroyed a gun holster, a ratchet strap from the back of my truck. So I took the gun holster piece, which was like the back cross member, and then I took the ratchet straps to go through that, and then a waist pack for the bottle holder, and then a hotel room sewing kit is what the pieces were. And then I sewed together that crude concept, and I still have it, and it looks absolutely terrible. The red straps, black deal, and I think I had like purple thread or whatever it was. It was on the free kit from a hotel, and I went for a run, and I came back. I said, hey, this worked really cool. I told my wife, I said, we're going to have 2 backpacks worth $25,000 each because it's probably going to cost at least 50 grand. And I was like, worst case, we're going to have 2 backpacks worth 25,000 each. And best case, we can start a brand. And that's how it all came about. That was the easy part. It was the easiest part of starting everything. And it's still the easiest part to this day. Everything else has always been hard. It's like finding people to make it, making it actually look like it's worth more than a nickel, because it looked pretty crude at the time. But yeah, 14 years later, we celebrated 14 years as of January this year since the inception. And we're still kicking it and going full throttle.
Which is a great accomplishment, to say the least. Like from prototype garage to brand to the longevity of the brand, and it's known and respected in the ultra space, like any like ultra endurance type of space. It's like one of the first or second or like at least top 5 for sure on the list of everybody. Like I think legitimately always in conversation for top 3, I think, for suggestions of different products. And they're always in the running. So, which is really cool. For people who don't know what an Ironman is, What is that? It's the craziest race. I mean, now there's
Yeah.
ultra Ironmans, but like for
Yeah.
normal
Yeah.
Ironman, like
Those people are
what is that?
crazy. So yeah, Ironman, the start is a 4,000 meter or 2. Was 112-mile bike, 112, yeah, 112-mile bike, and then a 26.2-mile run afterwards, and all in succession. It's strange because it's a discipline that I have a love-hate relationship with, because ultimately that was like a training day to us. When we were doing adventure races, we go way longer than this. We'd race for a day or days on end. And so like when I signed up to do an Ironman, I told my buddy, who was one of my teammates, I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't like roads. I like dirt. I mean, I like dirt roads, but I don't I don't like pavement. And I didn't know how to swim very well when I did my first Ironman. And so I had to go get coaches to dial in swimming fitness, and I've always ran a lot, but I've never really been a good runner. I just run. I don't even know why I run. I don't even really like it, but I still do it all the time. And so, I got running coaches to understand, oh yeah, there's a reason why you typically hurt your foot, because you're basically running like a Clydesdale and not efficient. And so cycling is my beast, and I've always done really well with the sport of Ironman. A triathlon in general is complicated because you start in this flat position, right? You're swimming, and you're hunched over swimming for most mere mortals. You're roughly an hour and a half, and then all of a sudden you get up on your bike, and then your belly's in this hunched position. You're in the aero position as long as humanly possible in aero bars, and trying to be as efficient as possible to glide through that. And that's 6.5 hours or whatever. And then you enter the suck zone, which is the run. And almost everybody, even if you're a good runner, hates the suck zone. And it's just going to hurt, because then you stand up. And that's when your belly normally says, you know what? I don't like you, because you were this way and then this way, and now you're this way. And once you stand up and you start to run, your belly, your gut usually is like, you're going to throw up at some point today, if you're lucky. And otherwise you might just be sick. But it's a hard discipline to get nutrition to comply with. And then the other piece of that, tying even orange mud into it, I was always frustrated that I wanted to carry my own nutrition strategy. I didn't want to drink the water on the course. Most of us, they do, have done Ironman, you become disciplined because it's such a beast and you want to do well. And so you have this nutrition strategy you want to execute. You have this business plan, if you will, for the race. But then all of a sudden you go into race day and you're like, yeah, I guess I'll just drink water on course and eat gummy bears at the aid station. And that is what makes a lot of things go sideways. And so that's why I was like, well, if I could have a bottle-based pack that's itty bitty, and I can carry my own nutrition supply, and I just can drink from my 24-ounce water bottle. I only need to refill 3, maybe 4 times in a run, and I can put in my exact hydration strategy, and I can hopefully have a gut that complies and is happy with me all the way to the finish. And so that's where I built this pack. But it's, tying it all together. That's the gist of an Ironman. Is a long day.
Yeah, that sounds brutal. Sidebar, while you're talking about the nutrition and trying out different things like the day of the race, like the gummy bears or somebody else's water, I was thinking
Yeah,
about a buddy who was running like a marathon or maybe a marathon, like half marathon, and they had different nutrition packs like the day before the race. And I
yeah,
was telling him, like, you're better off just not
yeah.
doing it at all.
No,
If you don't know, just don't do it. And then
no,
he wound
not
up
good.
just puking during the race
Yeah,
and he messed up all his training. And it was just like, yeah, if you don't know, don't do it. Especially like you train for ultra, like
it's
an
brutal.
Ironman or any like ultra marathon. Like that's some serious discipline and training.
Yep.
Just to leave it up to like an unknown the day of is not a
No.
good decision.
And especially nutrition is the one thing that, like, I'm not afraid to test, a new pair of socks, maybe, or a new backpack or a new T-shirt or something. Sure, I might bleed a little bit or whatever, but nutrition is the one thing I don't mess with. I am a scientist. When it comes to that, I know exactly what I'm going to do, and I don't mess with it. And it's just it's the one thing most of us struggle with in endurance sports. Anybody can do stuff for 2 or 3 hours, but once you cross that 2 or 3 hour barrier, that's when your body starts to say, I don't like what you did, and I'm going to punish you. I did a half Ironman once where I literally I tried to throw up every couple hundred meters for the whole entire 13.1 miles, the whole thing. I had a buddy of mine run past me, and he's like, Sprague, you okay? I'm like, no, no, I just need to throw up. I put my finger so far down my throat. I'm like, please just throw up, for Christ's sakes. And I couldn't. And I tried a new hydration mix prior to that race, and this was a long time ago. It's probably 20 years ago. And and he's like, "You're really pale." I'm like, "I know. Like I feel terrible." But it was absolute worst, man. But I tried this hydration mix at the expo before the event, and I was like, "Man, that tastes great." It was just cherry flavored, and I thought, "Man, this is going to be amazing." And yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it was really bad. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
2006. It was 20 years ago. Yeah, it's 2006.
These things need to be battle tested, just like orange
Yeah,
mud. And
yeah.
talking about how you tested that against athletes when you're like developing products, I think that maybe that's an interesting conversation. Just
Yeah,
talk us through like how do you go through testing of a new bag?
sure. Yeah, well, in the beginning, so what one thing I found to be the consistent truth is that about 3 hours is the minimum I would ever run in a new design. And before I would say that pack is good. And the reason why, well, I can't explain the mechanics of it. It's just I don't know. It's just always been what I've noticed. But in testing, I always go and I test, right? And this first step is stability. And that's where our packs are just very different than everybody. The way I anchor them to a body, they're always stable. And that's the number one thing to me in a backpack. It really isn't much more complicated. You've got a bunch of fluid, you got a bunch of stuff. Make sure stuff and fluid doesn't move. It's that simple. And so since the very beginning, that's always been my premise: is lock it onto your body and make it rock solid. So going for a run, though, what ends up happening is that I've had plenty of packs where I go for an hour run and I'm thinking, wow, this is really cool. And I'm really excited about my design. I'm like, nice, I got this. And then, the next weekend, maybe I'll do a 2 hour run. And then all of a sudden I'll do a 3, 4, 5, 6 hour run. And it's at the 3 hour point is when you find out whether that pack's going to work or not. And I found weird things. Sometimes it's not like the pack breaks. I mean, I've always overbuilt my packs to where they're not going to fail. But like I had one pack I worked on for 2 years, and this one which worked great up to about 2 hours. At 3 hours, it had kind of a pressure point right here, somewhere in like my upper shoulder somewhere, and I just didn't like how it fit. It really bummed me out, actually, to a point where I was so frustrated with the design after working so long. I actually stopped working on it for like 4 months, and then came back. I don't know, I think on a mountain bike ride, I came up with the idea and I came back months later and then completely redid the whole thing from scratch. It ended up being an entirely different product. But you have to do things for a long period of time in order to find out if they're going to work for you. Just like it's like a pair of shoes. It's the same thing. Like you can wear a pair of shoes for a little bit and it's going to be fine. But you wear a pair of shoes all day long, even for 3 or 4 hours, and you're going to find out, are they going to hold up and are your feet going to be happy with how they perform. But backpacks are the same thing. You have to push to an endurance level. I am kind of the universal source of truth before anything ever goes to production. Yeah, I do test it on other people, but I have learned that my body type is kind of this perfect middle ground that just seems to work well with a lot of people. I know there's certain type of people that are the big, tall, lanky guys that have really broad, bony shoulders. I know they're problematic, and so there's certain little adjustments I have to make. Or with women that have large breasts or artificial breasts, are actually, I tell people all the time, like I think of boobs all the time when I design things. I don't mean that in a perverted way. Like I have to, because it's fairly easy to design something for a guy. But for women, regular breasts normally, non-artificial breasts are usually not an issue. But all of a sudden you have an implant and now they're much more firm and it kicks the backpack chest pockets up. And then it makes everything ride poorly. So there's little design considerations like that I've learned how the fit needs to go to be able to comply with various body types. And so I use myself as a basis to find neutrality, but then I adjust for these given
Slight
learning periods that
augments.
we've got from feedback.
I heard a couple things in your walkthrough of how you go through testing. So the first thing I just want to acknowledge how insane it is, just like casually going on 3 to 5 hour runs, like for the casual
Yeah.
listener, because I've never ran that far, and I'm not an ultra runner, but I could
Yeah.
go out and run a 20-mile run no problem and go work out later that day. That's great, but
Yeah.
like once you go past that and you're like, okay, now I'm going to run 50 miles. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's a different ball game. Just to do that casually, like not a
Yeah.
race, just like, okay, I'm going to go see you, sweetie. I'm out. I'll be
Yep.
back. I'll be back in
Yeah.
6 hours.
I know I've done so much stupid stuff over the years that I sometimes forget. But the neat part, like my son is 14, and I just took him on a man trip with us
Hmm.
to Moab, and we did 5 days of mountain biking up there with my buddies, and on one of the days we did a 48-mile mountain bike ride, and I was like, "You gotta be good with this," and he's like, "Yeah, yeah, probably," because he doesn't know better. That's the beautiful part. When you're a kid, you don't know better. Us adults, we say, oh God, it's 3 hours. There's no way I can do that. You can't. You just have to do it. It's like the first time you run. I remember in cross country in high school, my coach was like, here we'd run 3, 5, 6, 8 miles, whatever. And then one day he's like, I'm going to take you guys out in the country and drop you off, and you have to run back. I'm like, well, how far are we going to go? He's like 15 miles. And I remember thinking, there's no way. This sounds absolutely terrible.
Crazy.
There's
Yeah.
no way I can do this. And we did, and it wasn't a big deal. And but to the flip side, now I look back and it's like I ran up to 100 miles. I biked up to over 700-mile races, and it's just something I don't worry about. But it's just what you get comfortable with. You're always pushing, right? And that's what a lot of people do. But again, it's back to the point of the kids. It's neat because an adult, we lock into, I've only done this, therefore that's my limit. A kid's like, I don't know what my limit is. Yeah, sure, why not? I'll go do something stupid. But yeah, I
Yeah,
like to push.
everybody's limitless if you think you are. I think that's the
You truly are. All you need, I tell everybody this, all you need is calories and sodium, and you can do anything.
I don't know who the quote is, but it's like, I think so I am.
Okay.
But the other thing that I thought was interesting that you said was when you spoke about, hey, I was working on something intensely for some time
Mhm.
and it didn't turn out the way I wanted to. I just took a break and I came back. Like, that's important to realize for other people in this conversation that might be listening is like, when do you know you got to take a break and just like, oh, you know what? I'm going to put this out of my mind for 2 months and then I'll come
Yep.
back. Like I've
Yeah,
lost the rights right now. I've just got to relinquish this responsibility for now
sure.
and circle back.
Yeah, I mean, I've designed a lot of stuff. I'm not sure. Just with Orange Mud, I probably designed 200 things, I guess. I don't know. It's been a lot. But one thing I've consistently found is that only once have I ever designed something where I visualized it and then it worked. And it was so cool. It was awesome. I watched a Star Wars movie with my son, and I came out of the theater. I was like, buddy, I'm going to make the coolest damn pack on the planet. This is going to be awesome. And I did. And the first prototype was awesome. I was so excited. Only time that's ever worked. And it was so weird. I saw like a pin pocket on a shoulder, and it somehow translated to this whole backpack. Anyway,
Mm,
normally it's 10 months for is what it takes me. And normally with designs, I can always get to 90%. It's easy. That's like, 101 little stuff. It's that last 10% is absolutely brutal. And every single time I hit a point of impasse, except for the one PFB I designed, but one pack. But every time I hit a point of impasse that I don't feel I can get past, but because I've done, it's just like endurance racing, because I know I've done it before, I know I can do it again. So I keep pushing, and eventually I keep test, and then sometimes I just hit a point, I run out of ideas, and then I'm like, all right, well, I gotta take a break, and I'll
hmm
come back to this when I come back to it. And then it just comes to how bad do I want it, and which is normally like in the next week, or the next few days. But there's many of nights that I have been up designing until 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and it's usually at like 4 a.m. I'm like, there it is,
There
I
it
got
is.
it. I may not, once I figure it out, I may not go and complete it because it may take just too much work. But once you're
That's,
in it and you're spun up, your brain is spinning and it's working through all the little problems. Once you figure it out, then it's like, okay, let's make all these notes and go figure it out. But a lot of times, like I have a pack right now I've been working on. It's a waist belt, my running waist belt. I worked on for off and on for like 10 years, and I finally launched it a year and a half ago. And it's awesome. It's truly awesome. I literally started this brand because I hated waist belts and handhelds. Now I have 2 handhelds and 1 running waist belt, and I genuinely believe they're better than everybody else's in the market when it comes to stability, performance, function, durability. I love them, and I do frequently run in my waist belt. But my mountain bike waist belt, I thought, I'm going to build off this same pattern. This will be cool. And people always ask about waist belts for mountain bike. And I'm like, you realize it's an illogical category of putting projected mass, coming off your butt. And when you're mountain biking, it's going, it's trailing at an angle that doesn't make sense. It's just off. But I thought maybe I can stabilize it. And so I have built something that looks awesome. I use it hunting, hiking. I love it, but it sucks for mountain biking. Just like every other pack that I've tested in that same category, it sucks. And so it's like, sure, I got a cool fanny pack, which is also funny that, I grew up, I'm older than you. And like even when I was a kid, fanny packs I thought were terrible. But then they went out of style, which I thought was great. And then now they're back in kind of in style. And now I'm like, it's funny that I'm wearing a fanny pack. Like I'm embarrassed in the woods hunting by myself wearing a fanny pack, even though it looks awesome. So this one, I don't know how I'm going to solve it. I am planning a 50-ish mile mountain bike ride on Saturday for my birthday. And usually most of my problem solving happens on my endurance mountain bike rides or gravel bike rides. So I'm hoping I may solve it on Saturday. I won't be wearing the pack because it sucks right now. But I'll be wearing a different pack that I love of mine. But yeah, most things only work in the free state of thinking, which is usually of only one of three places. Usually on a bike ride, on a run, more often on the bike ride. And then the third is like when I'm in my backyard in the morning having coffee and looking at the birds. That's
Yeah, like
about it.
finding your space to where you don't really have anything going on.
Yeah.
It's therapeutic. It has a meditative space to it,
Yep.
and that's just where you can let your mind just go free, and then it
Yeah.
just solves whatever your subconscious wants to solve. And in this case, it might be the mountain biking pack, or it might be some kind of, I don't know, kids conflict, whatever's going on in that
Sure.
person's mind. But it gives your mind the opportunity to wander versus having a strict, rigid approach, which
Exactly.
I think is more beneficial. And the other thing that you said that was pretty funny was when you're like, yeah, I might figure it out at 4 a.m.,
Hmm.
but it might take too long for me to do it then. So
Yep.
I just take some notes down, and I like to say that's for the Dalton for tomorrow. And
Yeah.
so for you, it's like that's tomorrow's Josh for tomorrow's problem, not
Yep.
mine. Going to bed.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I love it when I figure things out because then I can sleep. Otherwise, I go to bed and I can't sleep, and that sucks. If I figure it out when it's late, then it is neat because it's like, I know how to do this tomorrow. And if I go to sleep now, I'm going to sleep and then I'm going to wake up more refreshed and I may make it even better because I at least have the solution. But yeah, the designing part, man, it is brutal. Innovation is it's fun, but I work really hard on doing everything my way rather than trying to copy what somebody else is doing. For better or for worse. I mean, there's times where I'm like, I should just buy this other brand's pack and then make some adjustments to it, but I don't want to get locked into whatever their design premise is. I don't want to steal somebody's IP, but some of it's like backpack. But even so, I want to innovate for what it is that makes sense. And so it's the reason why I like to kind of suffer through things.
Suffer through the pain.
Yeah.
So talk about pain. You have an embroidery company, right?
Yeah.
Seven Clay. Why did that come about?
Sure. It's kind of like Orange Mud. It was innovation out of frustration was our tagline. And with Seven Clay, we have different taglines, make an impact. But the real root of it should be competition sucks, let's hurt them. And because that really should be my tagline. I have a product called the Transition Wrap. It's a changing talent seat cover. So it goes over your seat in your car, and we embroider club and team and store logos on the headrest of it. And we've embroidered hundreds of thousands of units. I don't know how many at this point, but a lot. And I had used numerous embroidery companies over the years, and I often argued with them. I'm like, I don't understand, what can't you trim the threads on these dang things? Because it was always a job for someone at my company, myself included, has been a part of this, of going in and trimming loose threads and burning all the loose threads. We have a zero tolerance to bad quality. And sometimes their stitch quality was okay, but it was the loose threads that made me freaking nuts. And then
It's little things, as you're saying. It's like the little
little
attention to
things.
details, like the
Yep.
care of the product and the
Yeah.
pride of craftsmanship.
Exactly. No, totally dropped the ball there. And then we had one logo for a big retail store called Fleet Feet. There's hundreds of them around the country, and
Yeah, they're
and
huge.
we've been making product for them for years. And I've used three different embroidery shops over the time. And every time I'm like, man, there's no way you can increase the thickness. I didn't know what to call it at the time, but I'm like, the kind of like I just don't want to see the towel through it. It's like white thread. It's very basic text and everything. And so they would tell me like, no, you don't understand. I'm like, well, why? I mean, it's just like a needle and thread. It's going back and forth. Can't you like make them kind of tighter? And they're like, no, you don't understand. And so when we moved our business to Texas in June of 19, I had tried to outsource, and I had a lot of work at the time to outsource, and I really struggled to get anybody to do my work. And I ended up having a guy that he's like, I'll talk my wife into doing these for you. I'm like, I'm paying you guys for this. It's not like I'm asking you to do free work. I'm like, what are you talking? Like, I am outsourcing a lot of value. Orange Mud would be a top customer in almost any embroidery shop, to put it in that perspective. And so I couldn't believe that I couldn't get a lot of these people to work with us. It just blew my mind. It made me very angry because I did not need another business. I hit a breaking point one day where I was not happy with the quality. And I spent $58,000 that day on an embroidery machine. I came home, told my wife, I said, "Hey, I bought an embroidery machine. It's going to be here in a couple weeks. My goal is to hurt the local competition. That's my sole goal. I want to put them out of business." And we've had 3 different shops around us go out of business, which good riddance. I was trying to give people work. And most of these people, they wouldn't call you back. They wouldn't answer the phones. They wouldn't answer their emails. And even if I did work with them, their quality sucked. Yeah, all these years later, it's comical because we quickly ended up adding another machine, bigger, fancier machine, more expensive machine. And then we added another of that same machine. And then people were like, "Well, hey, can you do leather patches?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, probably. Yeah, let's place an order." And then I bought a machine, and then now I have 3 laser machines. And then people are like, "Well, can you screen print?" Yeah, probably. And then next thing you know, we bought screen printing and sublimation and all this stuff. And now, I mean, we even have full custom cut and sew in shop that we do in select projects, but we do, medical device stuff and commercial stuff and whatever. It's funny how that business has evolved, and it became bigger. It took off like a rocket ship, and it became bigger than Orange Mud by year 3. And the reason why is because I reached out to my digitizer and I said, "Hey, I just want this to be more dense than this. Can you do this?" And he's like, "Well, Josh, that cycle time is going to go from 2 minutes to 3 minutes and 20 seconds." And I was like, "It takes me 5 minutes to load the machine. So it can run in 5 minutes, and that's fine." And he's like, "Oh, okay, sure. Here you go. Boom, fixed." That was it. It wasn't because I was a genius. It's just because I asked the question and I refused to accept some crap. And that's the way everybody in my organization operates. We're still the same as we were in the very beginning of, crap doesn't work. It just needs to be good. And even like with my lasers, I only bought that because I was outsourcing leather patches to this big patch company, leather patch company. I got into an argument with them on a simple patch for a client of ours that became a friend of mine. And I was like, "Man, can't you just use like different levels of light? I want 2 different levels. This part, one level, and this part, a more intense beam." And they're like, "No, you don't understand." I'm like, "Okay." I literally had done a better job than they did in 24 hours of having my machine, and I knew nothing, like nothing about lasers. And it just goes to show, if I can be smarter than somebody else within 24 hours, the bar is low in this industry. It really is. And it has been easy to be the best, especially now that we actually know what we're doing. Like before, we didn't even know what we were doing. We were just kind of working on it and documenting the process and trial and error and recording everything and constantly making improvements. It just kept going. It's a fun business, and attention to detail is just something that I've always been a giant stickler on. Anyone that's ever worked for me knows that I have that's what we do. There's no tolerance to it. But it's easy to do good if you just try. It really is. It's just like anything. Like I said, you want to run a marathon, you can go do it tomorrow. It may hurt you, but you can do it tomorrow if you just try.
Hurt a lot.
You know?
It may
Yeah.
hurt a lot.
Yeah, it may hurt a whole lot, as a matter of fact, but you're going to be happy once you did it. You just have to put your mind to it. You just have to try. But it's no different in everything that we've done in this business. We work with some of the biggest brands in the industry. We've done custom work for Red Bull and I mean, we've done some really cool stuff and with giant brands, and we're very thankful to have built such a fun enterprise.
Oh, that's awesome. The thing that catches my ear during that whole background about Seven Clay was it's a theme, consistent theme, but for some reason it's just not caught wind of the way that it
Yeah.
should. But your customer is your best place of feedback. So if your customer is saying, "Hey, I need these to be denser,"
Hmm.
like the real response should have been, "Of course, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. You've got enough order volume with this other thing. Then, like with Orange Mud, we can figure it out. Maybe we might need a new machine, but let's look into it. That's a valid concern, and we
Yep.
can figure out these extra threads that we can get that squared away. And when it gets to you, they won't be there. And how it happens behind the scenes is none of your business. So they might have somebody that might be the person's son or daughter just cutting threads after it's
Sure.
done before it goes to you. But for you, it's finished product. And
Yep.
you're happy with it. It's denser, the threads are loose, and there's no more loose threads. That's what should have happened. And then maybe they can make it work over time and they can improve the product, buy a new machine, whatever it may be.
Exactly.
But if you just say no, it's like, well, I felt what I was saying was reasonable. This is a reasonable ask in your mind in that scenario.
Hmm.
And if the answer is no, and the next person's answer is no, well, it's like, well, this is something I need to do. So then you like basically forced your hand to do something you really didn't want to do because you were
Yeah.
fine with not having a business, but it worked. Another one, but it worked out to where the business grew, and you also have a pretty good clientele with Orange Mud, right? Like
Yeah.
where you could also be more aggressive on innovation when it comes to like the usage of machines or prototyping because you already had material and you were your own client, and
Hmm.
and obviously that had grown over time, but I think you're able to innovate faster when you are your first customer or customer zero is
Yeah,
how I like to
for
say it.
sure.
So those are like two recurring themes like throughout guests that are on the show is when your customer is your best place of feedback. Two, if you are customer zero, you have like a critical advantage. And that was your scenario for both companies that you'd built. Like you were your
Hmm.
first customer for Orange Mud because you were just completely just frustrated. And
Yep.
then the second company, Seven Clay, was also your first customer.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Yeah, yeah, it's funny. I never thought of it like that, but you're right. I mean, ultimately, you got to. I think it boils down to the same premise in many things in life. You know, there's so many things that we do to make other people happy, but ultimately, you need to make yourself happy first. And if you do that, you can make more people happy, right? On my side, I just wanted to sleep at night, just knowing that everything that I'm doing is making me a happy person. And then if we apply that same methodology to every single customer that we work with, then everybody's happy. It's not hard to have a good business. It's not hard to get customers if you do things right the right way. Maybe hard to grow a business and maybe hard to find the customers, right? But it's easy to keep customers as long as you know do everything as if you would to do for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's fair. With this extra capacity of new companies
Hmm.
and the innovation of LLMs and AI, I was pretty impressed with our conversation outside of the podcast about your workflow and how you use Cowork with
Hmm.
Claude.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to note on like with this new technology, you're able to do more with less without reducing the quality and
Yeah.
without compression loss of I would say sometimes it's automated, sometimes it's a manual run, but really just wrapping the listener's head around like, hey, now I've got these companies have been running for some time. This new technology has given me an opportunity to innovate and spend more time on what I think are more important things. Like the company
Hmm.
might be designing, prototyping, testing versus more of these administrative pieces where less of my time is going towards that. And I'm going
Yeah.
towards things that I think are more leverage activities for the business.
I've been using Claude Cowork for I don't know, probably roughly since the beginning of the year, I think, maybe a little before then. And you know, it's and to those that don't know, because there's still an incredible amount of people I talk to where I'm like, "Are you using AI in your business?" And like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I use it." I'm like, "What do you use it?" And they're like, "Well, I use Gemini or whatever." I'm like, "That's great," but most people use it as a chat tool. It's like what's the life of a butterfly, stuff like that, and which is fantastic, and I love it for stuff like that. But Claude Cowork to me is what is the greatest innovation that I have found ever in my entire career because it can run autonomously. It can run on a program in its organization in terms of project management is what's cool. So I have in mine, I have many accounts that I manage between my own business and some others I manage with Google ads and Facebook ads and Meta ads and Microsoft ads and Amazon ads and then of course the analytics and the setup and the configuration and even CRO and SEO and whatnot opportunities. I break it into projects and then I put in all the parameters, the sources of truth, with things that need to be cross checked because Facebook often lies and Google often lies with attribution or whatever. They got a loose definition of attribution. And so I like to have a server side attribution. So what I do is I tell Cowork, said, hey, here is my, like Google, for example, here is my Google Ads account. Here's my Google Analytics account. And I spell out the account numbers so there's no cross up. Now, most people may not have this problem, but me managing a lot of businesses, it can get crazy. So I give it all this data. So there's no confusion. No matter what, there's no confusion. And I say reference Google's data and cross-reference my server-side attribution to ensure that the server is the source of truth and ensure that Google's data is matching that as close as possible. If you discover problems with that, attribution's wrong, programming's wrong, right? The back end of Google is not set up right. Meta, same thing. And and then of course dig into my campaigns, but but I specify, don't tell me what campaigns are doing well. Tell me what campaign, ad set, ad, how they're doing, because it may not be a campaign that's doing bad. It's an ad in the campaign that's doing bad, or it's an ad set in the campaign that's doing bad, whatever. And so you can program this to where it automatically runs on whatever schedule you want. And for me, normally that's me going there and clicking around, wasting my life in reports. And honestly, half the time it's calculating the amounts of data that is too great. And with Claude, I can say, go in and tell me what's working. I did this yesterday, or I do this weekly, but tell me what's working and what I'm doing really well. And because I want to learn from what I'm doing really well, right? And it's easy sometimes to be like, oh, that's positive attribution. Great. Positive ROAS, great. I like it. But why? And so I like to have it tell me what I'm doing well so I can learn from that and further push that throttle forward. But then tell me what I'm failing at and what I need to improve, and then obviously identify any things that are failing in terms of the analytics and the measurement tool. I care greatly about the measurement, because if you don't have the proper measurement set up, then you're going to fail. And so it reviews this weekly, and even checking links to make sure all links are working. I don't think most people realize how many broken links there are in ad campaigns. And I see it a lot I'll see something neat on the web where it's a company that should know what they're doing. Like they're so big that they shouldn't have problems. And you click their link and it's broken. You're like, it makes me feel better. I'm like, if that guy is having problems, then I am a freaking genius, because it's like if you see a Coca-Cola has a broken link, like that's not good. But this is where AI opens up the door to do so many things greater. Or even like before our call this morning, I have a new product that I'm launching. It's real fancy. It's a seatbelt cover, but it's really cool. It's a magnetic seatbelt cover. It's right here, and it's actually launching next week. There's only a handful of people that have even seen it. So it's just kind of a basic, nothing fancy, thing. But it's complementing one of our other products, and we've had people ask for this forever. So I went in and I took pictures, no kidding, here on my floor in my office with my iPhone. I didn't bust out my pro grade equipment. I didn't send it to a lab. I took a picture on the wood floor, and then I said, hey, wipe the background, format square, give me high res images. Boom. Claude came up with that. I'm like, hey, good job. You did a good job filtering that. Okay, now I want you to create me A+ content for Amazon and Shopify pictures, as well as build out the product listings for me. Here's the UPC and the SKU. And then I, of course, gave it the parameters of here are the key core functions of the product and the key everything. And all of a sudden it created, hard pressed to know that the people that have it modeled on them on a seat weren't real. It was actually pretty cool, where sometimes AI is like, that's definitely AI. This is, if you're in a studio getting a good pro grade, it would be similar to this. So this created what would normally have been me monkeying around listing by listing. It went and did it all in about 20 minutes while I was doing other stuff, while I was having some coffee. So this is where the limits of it, they're only getting started, and they're only improving. And there's a lot of tools out there that are, I believe, leveraging Claude, because I'm testing two different tools. I just shut one down that operate out of Slack to be able to run your PPC campaigns and to be able to create stuff like this. And I've been running all three side by side, Claude and then these two other Slack tools that manage PPC. I get damn near the same results. Of course, they're slightly variant, but I almost get the same results. And again, Claude's cheaper. And I mean, it's only like $100 a month for the plan that I have. There's so much you can do, and even just I use it for scouting for fraud. It's one of the fun things in business. There's always somebody trying to steal money from you, and especially with credit cards and hacking there. So I have it run a monthly analysis on my credit card transactions just to look for reoccurring that is outside the norm, or new transactions outside the norm. I'm even using it for inventory reduction, because inventory management systems suck really for B2C consumer products like mine. And so it's truly endless with what you can do.
But all that stuff you're talking about, that would be super expensive to do. Okay, so if you're managing all these accounts for ads, like you're talking about like paying multiple thousands of dollars a month for these ad campaigns and managing it all. Then you're talking about some kind of inventory system. That's, I mean, probably with just the volume you're doing, it's at least over $5,000 a month or something to manage all that. This is like $100,000 potentially of like savings that you're talking about throughout this like workflow that you have. And it's hands-free ish.
Hmm.
It's hands on keyboard when you want it to be, but you could schedule it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big deal because you're getting a lot of leverage from this tool. For you said $100 a month, so $1,200. For $1,200, you're getting a massive ROI,
Oh
and
yeah.
it allows you to have a lot more free time with either things that you want to work on at the company or things that you want to do in your life. Like
Hmm.
if you want to go walk, and then you can also hook up Cowork to your phone.
Yeah.
And then so you can be on a mountain bike thing, take a
Yeah.
break, have a water, kick off a whole bunch of jobs, go
Yep.
mountain bike for a couple hours, and then come back when you get home. Everything's already done. I love that because I'm at this place right now where I feel guilty if like
Yeah.
my chat GPT isn't running. Like I
Right.
use Codex, so it's similar to Cowork.
Hmm.
But if it's not running, it's like, oh, I'm missing out on all these
Yeah,
on
I'm
these
with
on these
you.
hours.
Yep.
Like it should be running. I should be more efficient. Like this should be running. There should be one thing running.
Yep.
Why is it not running? And I'm
Yeah.
like trying to
That's
make
where
sure.
that is a cool feature, man. The only thing I don't like, so what you're talking about in relation to Claude is what's called dispatch. And dispatch is you can use a terminal from anywhere to communicate with the terminal that runs most of your operations. And so it's the one thing I don't like about Cowork is that with Claude is that it's isolated per computer, which I think is strange. And so like I have Cowork on my laptop and it has some of its own parameters that it does. But then I have Cowork on my Mac, and this is my kind of my beast that I drive things. But yeah, from my phone, I can be on a mountain bike ride and I'll be like, hey, Claude, what's up with the task running on Meta with Orange Mud right now? And it'll be like, oh, yeah, it's waiting for your decision on these three parameters. And it'll spell them out. And I'm like, all right, go with number two. And then I'm like, put my phone back in my pocket. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
all and keep on riding. I wish it was all synchronized between systems. And I'm sure it's not far away from doing that. I still am puzzled with that. I do think, AI is probably going to take over and we're all going to be murdered someday by robots. But that being said, for now, I'm in. I'm just going for it because whatever it is what it is. I love it. And yes, it's going to get rid of a lot of jobs, but it opens up efficiency and opportunity. The way I view it is I have paid a lot of agencies that have hurt me in PPC management over the years. Lots of money. I mean, we're talking a lot of money that I've spent in SEO and PPC management and then a lot of these guys are like, they're only a Facebook expert or they're only a Google expert. They're only an Amazon expert. I don't want those people. I want one at least entity that can manage everything. Because why the heck not? Why wouldn't you tie it all together, right? Like Google and Amazon, they're ultimately search based PPC. Facebook is interest based. I want Google and Amazon, that should be the same person, or at least the same entity that's managing it, right? And that's where Claude is cool because I'll roll out a campaign with Claude, and people that are searching for orange mud type of products in Google are likely searching for the same products in Amazon.
Amazon,
Why
yeah.
not use the same search? But over the years, I've always had to pay two separate people between Google and Amazon. Always been two separate. But now I don't have to do that anymore. So I can have a more unified approach to how I approach my PPC strategy. It costs less and it's probably going to be done better. I mean, last year, for example, and this is what sent me down this whole path, my Amazon PPC agency that I was paying, I liked these guys for a long time. They did a great job. But
Mm-hmm.
then I don't know, all of a sudden, I'm completely burning through cash like insane. And I reached out to my guy there and I'm like, hey man, what's gone wrong here? And he's like, no, everything's fine. I'm like, no, it's not fine. I'm like, we're bleeding money. We're losing money. Well, it's what led me down the AI quest. And it took me a while to get to Claude, but I was using mostly Grok last year and doing analysis of my campaigns and breaking it down and trying to get a better understanding of what the heck they put together, which was insanely complicated. And then from there, it was like, okay, Grok was able to help me analyze a mess, is what it boiled down to. But then it was able to help me shape a campaign strategy. And that's because they're really whatever there was not a strategy, not unless you're an absolute like you're a serial killer, then maybe it would make sense. But what we have now is a strategy, and it's just something that I think once people go deep into the AI usage, they will find that they can shift the money that they were maybe paying. And I'm not saying fire your PPC agency, but if they're not getting you at least a 2 to 2.5 times ROAS, definitely fire them and go find somebody else. if you're in a product-based business like I am. But it's something that you can shift that money to other things, And like right now, I pay Claude $100 a month. I mean, I don't know what I pay it, but I pay it a lot more. Don't tell them that, but it's probably listening anyway. But
Claude is going to hear this. Is
yeah,
definitely going
Claude's
to
already heard it, and he's already sent it to the CEO. But it's something that the expense, because I hear some people like, oh, I don't want to pay that much money. I'm like, have you tried it? Because you could instantly get rid of some of your resources, or you instantly have resources that you never had. Most people don't have, like, I know a lot. I've been doing this 14 years, and I consider myself like an expert beginner in a lot of PPC and analytics setup. And I say that because it changes so much. I don't know if you can be an expert in the back end of this stuff. Like I said, I'm an expert beginner. If you're a mountain bike racer, I'm like an awesome Cat 3 guy is really what it would be. Cat 1 is basically your pros, and then Cat 3 is like, your beginners. But I'm the best in the beginner category. That's essentially where my knowledge is, and if in at least the way I feel compared to what the knowledge attainable is. But it changes so much, it's hard to get there. And this is where AI is really cool, because I've been able to have it run analysis on Google, for example, because Google is really complicated. It's not just Google Ads. You've got to have your analytics set up properly, and you have to have your analytics configured, obviously, with your website properly. You need to have Google Tag Manager, which is a different animal in itself. You got to have your Google Merchant Center and Google Search Console. You got to have all these tools. How many people? I spent like 8 hours on a tech call with Google, up until the point like the lady was literally cooking for her family in her kitchen and still on the phone with me solving problems. And I'm like, are you sure you don't need to go? But this is how complicated Google's ecosystem is. Claude, I'm not saying it's perfect, don't get me wrong, but it digs in and it reads the whole ecosystem, and it makes sure that ecosystem syncs, and it's fixed problems that I didn't even know I had. And that's the true beauty. It digs in again when I know the systems quite well, and it found problems I didn't even know that I had, and solve things that would have been an all-day deal with a tech call, or it would have got an all-day deal wasted only waiting to go to the next level of tech person because it was a different division of the Google whatever problem it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's these type of things that I just, I as you can tell, I'm very passionate about, because it's opened my knowledge base, which is already pretty deep in this stuff, and it's allowed me to dig in even deeper to make sure I'm set up properly. And that's all I care about. I love a system that is configured. And if it's configured and it's optimal, then at least if I'm failing, it's because I'm doing a bad job with driving the ad creation, or I'm doing a bad job with creating the product. And then I can point that finger back to whatever that problem is, and I can solve that problem. And then I can go off and hopefully ride my mountain bike. Because ultimately, that's what it's all about, is living and not working. But yet, what do? We all work all the time. So, if I'm going to go mountain biking, at least if I'm working, it's through dispatch.
Yeah, dispatch, and I think remote is what it's called on ChatGPT or Codex.
Yeah,
is a game changer for sure. But
yeah.
when you're mountain biking, you can always try out your new mountain biking pack. You can put yourself through a little bit of pain with your mountain biking pack that you're working on.
It is awesome when I get to tell my wife that I have to go on a mountain bike ride to test a new backpack.
I need to do this.
Yeah.
They need me.
Yeah.
I have to test this right now.
Like, yeah. Do you want me to fail? What, sweetie? Is that what you want? I have to do this today. And I have to ride all day.
You're setting me up for success. This is a successful household.
Yep. Yeah. That's what we do.
Funny.
Got to do this. I don't want to.
I don't want to go for a 12-hour bike ride.
It's why I bought a motorcycle last year, because I wanted to get into the motorcycle backpack market, and so I bought a Yamaha TW200. It's a little just play bike, man. It's awesome. And I only got it for dirt, and even so, like, I went to Claude Cowork, so I've been researching backpacks on the moto side, and I went into Claude and just out of curiosity, and I was like, hey, Claude, like, go in and read the reviews, all the reviews you can find on these 4 backpacks, 3 key products that I'm looking at that are top competitors. And this is a good thing for other people to do too. And so I say, go in and research all of their marketing attributes, and then look for all the negative feedback, and give me a summary of what I can do different to be better than everybody else. And it was like, yeah, no problem. And put out this beautiful whole dossier of all this stuff when it came down to, because I wanted to understand, what do people like? What do people not like? What do they not have? Like, what's not out there in the market right now? And that's something that, sure, I can go read every freaking review on the planet and go summarize every YouTube and everything, but Claude can do it in seconds, and it can instantly push me further forward than I would have ever been able to do
Yeah,
in
it's a
years past.
week's worth of work. Or you could
Oh, at
pay a
least.
service. Like
Yeah.
I can recall when I started a Amazon shop with my mom, like in college, we did some kind of product that did like magnet fishing or something like that. The product that we used was helium
Mhm.
8 or something. It's a
Yeah, helium
popular
10.
like, yeah, helium 10. There we go.
Yeah.
And I think they've got other products within their product suite. Like they're one of them's like 72. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's that and like Jungle Scout.
Yep.
Those products are quite expensive. Like they help do
Yeah.
other things, but their
Real
main thing
expensive.
that they do is product research, and the whole scope of it. It's built on, finding your competitors and helping you with keywords and managing your ad campaigns for you, and like helping discover which products that are good.
Yep.
And it's supposed to give you an advantage, but also it's like $400 a
Overwhelming.
month.
And
It's like
it's
250
overwhelming and
for,
expensive.
yeah. There's a lot to it.
Yep.
And I think the biggest thing when it comes to just these LLMs and the iteration of like this technology that is becoming part of infrastructure of businesses, similar to how you think about cloud infrastructure, this is another part of this new infrastructure of what it means to own and run a business.
Mhm.
It reduces the friction for an entrepreneur to think and iterate on an idea. And so you might have an idea about the motorcycle space. And so instead of spending weeks or paying for some kind of service and having to learn how to use that service and then making use out of that service, you can ask your AI buddy, we'll call it.
Yep.
We could be brand agnostic. So you ask your AI buddy, oh, I want to do this. Can you research it and get back to me? Builds this whole report for you. You read through it. It would have taken you weeks to gather. You could have done it yourself for sure,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of work and it's not fun work either. It's like, it's the
Sure.
work that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
But it has to be done. It's just a necessary evil. And then from there you can iterate, or it's like, oh, you have a different idea. Like, what are the regulations of mountain? Like maybe there's some regulations for motorcycle stuff. Like,
Sure.
what are the regulations? And like you find out all these regulations, you're like, okay, hold on. I think it's interesting, but with these regulations, I'm not as interested anymore. Or I'm
Mhm.
interested, but I can't do that right now. But if you don't have that information or that scope, it's like, oh, you've got to pay like maybe a consultant, or you've got to pay for this service, learn how to use the service. Whereas now you can ask questions and then you can get a product like the seatbelt that you're talking about, the
Mhm.
cover, which I think is cool because if your clientele is like ultra runner, like they're all like ultra runner, ultra bike, like mountain biking, they're all dirty and like mucked up in their car.
Yep.
So like that makes sense that they don't want their seatbelt all dirty. The next part of that is to take photos. You've got to find somebody to do the photo. You've got to
Mhm.
schedule it. You've got to bring the product. You got to ship the product to them. Then you got to review it. You might not like it. Then you got to iterate on it. And then before you know it, it's like a month gone, and then it's hundreds of dollars. It's expensive.
Yep.
And I remember when we did the pricing for that, when we were starting our new
It
product,
hurts.
because when you think about these like Amazon listings, and if you don't have like an established brand like Orange Mud, when you're starting your first product, you don't make money until like the third shipment, because you've got to
Yeah.
do all the licensing, you got to do insurance, you've got to do the postings. And so you're
Mhm.
trying to cut costs when it makes sense. And one of the ones that we thought made sense was the product photos, but this is before AI. So
Yeah.
this was like undergrad, like maybe sophomore year of college. So we took like a white, like I think for the office, like office
Mhm.
floor, that like for your chair or something, we typed it on the wall or something like that, or some kind of
Yep.
project board thing, taped it on the wall. We like hung up some lights in different areas, like actual, not professional lights, just like kitchen light type of situations, like lamps, but
Mhm.
they weren't on the ground anymore. They're like kind of suspended, whatever. And then we
Yep.
took photos, and it took us many iterations to get them good.
Yeah.
It's like a huge pain in the butt, because in the shadows, you see the shadow, and it's like, okay,
Yep.
well, what if I just turn up the exposure a little bit, the shadow will go away, but
Yep.
now it looks like washed out. It's like, okay, we just got to redo them. You're trying
Yep.
everything that you can. It's like, I really don't have to redo these, and it's just so much easier now to get started and to
Well,
know
it's
if there's
it's that piece
something
is
there.
that part's a game changer, man. I mean, the amount of money that I have spent and largely been disappointed with results from doing so to photo studios over the years is insane. And to a level that I was like you in the beginning, I was like, hold it. take a picture of it. I had a Canon Rebel back in the day, and I'd use that to take pictures.
It's a nice
And
camera,
then
though, right?
I finally ended up buying the Sony A7 III with the L glass. I bought the best of
Okay,
everything.
that's a really
And
nice camera.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice. I've got like the 70 to 200 2.8. I mean, I think it was like a $3,000 lens. It was awesome. And I've got, the 50s and pancake. I've got all kinds of stuff. And most all that stuff, I don't know. I think it's down here under in a bin because I can do almost everything with an iPhone now. But back in the day, yeah, it was like setting up photo studios. I bought these giant roll down curtains, like 10-foot wide white curtains, and I had them mounted on this 2x4 frame that I built in my basement. And then we pull it down, had all these studio lights. And even with that, and even having good glass, you're taking the images and you're like, dang it, how do I fix that shadow? I'm like, I need a 10th light bulb. And then you're like, well, that's too bright. Now, yeah, you're adjusting brightness and hues and saturations and all these things. And I became really proficient in Photoshop over the years. But now it's like to do what I did this morning. So my wife's like, those are coming in next week. I'm like, I know, I got to get this done. And that's why I was like, I'm just going to have Claude help me. What the heck am I doing? So I had Claude and then these other two apps all doing it concurrently. And really between the mix of things, even to get A+ content, which that alone, just like this is a big one for if you're not in the B2C space, to be able to comply with the sizes of images with Facebook and Amazon. Good luck. Good luck finding what they are if you're not using AI. It's hard to get the image size requirements. It's hard.
Yeah.
This has always been this way. And so this is the cool part of AI. I'm like, hey, just do it. Like I need A+ and I need Shopify. With Shopify, I only run square images. So I'm like, with Shopify, I need square images. But with Amazon, I need product listings and I need the A+ content and make sure it's all fitted for it. It's like, no problem. It not only formatted them all, it built out the freaking listing for me. And that in itself, if you've never done it, is like amazing. I mean, it really is amazing. Shopify pretty easy. Amazon sucks when it comes to building out stuff. But yeah, the getting rid of the photo studio and the lighting doesn't matter. If you're like, I don't like the lighting on that AI picture, change it a little bit. And it still comes down to prompting, right? And this is where I've always been a big fan of define the problem. I don't like people complaining unless you define a problem. It's totally fine to complain, but you better define a problem. And so like for me, it's one of the most amazing tools you can ever do is define the problem when it comes to AI. Because if you define it, you say, when you upres this image that I took with my iPhone, lock the proportions of the logo. Do not change the logo at all. And because I recognize that is one of the biggest problems with AI right now is that it'll like totally change your logo. But if you just like you look, okay, what's the problem? It's changing my logo. Well, how do I fix it? Well, tell it not to change the logo. And you just tell it, lock the proportions of my logo. Do not change anything. And look, and it fixes it. It's actually here. I battled it for a couple of months. And the other day I was thinking about this actually when I was having coffee in my backyard. And I was like, I should just tell it to lock the proportions. I wonder if that'll work. Sure enough, that's all it took. I just had to tell it what to do. And this is where there's so many things like this. If you just define the problem and then you go and you say, okay, I'm not doing this because I'm dragging my feet. I can go have Claude do it, but I need to define the problem. And then it's done.
Yeah, there's less eating the frog nowadays. Now you
Yeah.
just have AI eat the frog, and then you review the results, and then AI eats another frog.
Exactly.
So you're less of eating the frog and more of watching people eat frogs.
Yeah, I love it.
It's great. It's funny. I was doing thumbnails for one of my podcast episodes, and this is a funny story about AI just like not working. Like my guess was fine, but then myself, it was changing the color of my skin.
Yeah.
And it made me super tan. It made me black.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, guys, that's not me. Can you stop, make the image me? Like you're changing my hair and then you're changing my skin tone. I'm not these shades of skin tone. Like you're completely altering who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, I'll generate another one.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is still not even close. This is like 6 shades different than what I would look like. And yeah, it was just funny. Like,
it does
really change my hair. The first one gave me like earrings and like a nose piercing. Yeah. And changed my shirt. And I was like, well, what are you doing? Like, bring it back to who I am. And then it changes it. And it took the earrings out and the nose piercing, but then made me really tan. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, well, that's great that you did these things, but you're changing my skin tone too much. You got to leave it how it
Yeah.
is.
Yep.
And then it made me black. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I came back the
That's
next day.
crazy.
I came back the next day and it worked, but
Yep.
yeah, it just wasn't working for some reason.
Well, and on that note, a good point about that is that there's certain tools that do a better job of things. I mean, I use Gemini, Grok, ChatGPT, Claude, obviously, and I don't know, plenty others. But like Nano Banana, I'm a huge fan of it for when it comes to image. But it does weird things. Like if I give a complicated prompt, it doesn't do a good job. But if I'm like, well, like this morning with this image, I actually I said I test 3 platforms, so technically I did 4 because Nano Banana actually did a better job when I uploaded the picture and I said I want it to have crisp edges, white background, and upres it, and it did, and I downloaded it in 4K, and it was phenomenal, perfect picture. And then I gave the other 3 channels that same picture because none of them were doing as good of initial edit. But then they had clean data to work from, and they were better at doing the creative and laying
The
out A
creative.
plus content. And I couldn't
Oh,
even believe they laid out like all the bullet points right. I mean, it's like some things that read your mind, and that's sweet when that works. It doesn't always do that, but it is important to use the right tool for the right job. It's no different than using a Phillips versus a flat. If you got a freaking Phillips head on a screw, right? So it's the same thing, but there are definitely different results, and I would encourage everybody to test those platforms and see what results you'll get, because I had my Google Ads account hacked this year, and Google sucks, to just throw that out there. But like their tech team is terrible. But basically, long and short of it, bad guy spent $186,000, hacked me, removed me from my account. This was March 18th,
wow.
113 days ago. It's still not solved. I just messaged the CTO of Google today. I know he won't respond, but I still don't care. And because I can't solve this problem, and I need Google's help. In the earlier phases, when I was trying to get back into my account, I had Google messaging me some actions that I needed to do of putting some data into my website so they could verify that I am the legitimate owner. And mind you, it's my email is literally the Orange Mud email. But that being said, I ran it by Grok, and Grok's like, no, absolutely do not do that. That is, I think you're getting this email that is from an imposter. Is this all started from an email hacker? And so Grok was like, absolutely don't do that. What that person is telling you to do is likely an imposter of a Google tech support case, and that's not actually a Google person. So like over a few weeks, I kept pushing back on this email. I'm like, it's telling me I need a different way. I'm like, surely you can. There's something else we can do here. And after a few weeks, I finally got a person on the phone at Google, and they're like, no, that is
There's
legit.
a way.
That's
Yeah.
what we need you to do. And I said, really? Okay. So then I went to Claude, and I should have done this, but I went to Claude. I was like, hey, Claude, what do you think of this? And like, yeah, you should just do it. Here's how you do it. But yeah, Grok was like, absolutely not. This is fraud. So Grok was wrong.
Yeah.
But you would think these things wouldn't be that different, but I did get 2 completely different results. And if I would ask Claude in the beginning, I would have probably just done it. I mean, I was skeptical, of course, but everything seemed legit. But that's where it's important to test the different models too, depending on what you're doing, because you'll start to identify at this point in time which one outperforms the other. And things are changing so fast that what just because one doesn't perform well today, don't get rid of it,
Yeah.
because it may
Like,
be
yeah,
better in like 2
I
months.
always say is it's like whatever feature you think that you want to have, don't change whatever platform you're using. Just stay on the platform you have because
Yeah.
it's coming soon. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
would say that Grok is phenomenal at real time information due to the
Yeah.
connection with X. But
Hmm.
like if you ask like, hey, what's going on with this recent news event, it could tell you not only the news reports, but sometimes it's so recent that there is no real, like there's might be like one news article, but like there's
Right.
people reporting on it live, like an event that happened or some kind of terrorist attack or a sporting event where it compiles all of the users' information of what they're saying in that
Yeah.
geographic area. And it provides like really good stuff. But as
Yeah.
far as like critical takes on, I don't know, infrastructure stuff, I think that Grok lacks in like coding and other reasoning things. But
Hmm.
when you think about Chat GPT or Claude for coding or creating slides or asking questions like that, I think it's just not even close. And then
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
only integrated in Google and you want to use Google Cloud, then I would use Gemini because it's trained a lot on the Google Cloud. infrastructure. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
really depending on what you want to do and what tools you need to pick up, depending on what you're doing.
Yep.
That's really it. I mean, at the end of the day, I think they're gonna converge, and it's all gonna be pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
But there's slight differences, but the differences are slowly, I don't know, smoothing out where there's less
Yeah.
bumps. It's just everything's just a smooth road. So like, are you driving on road B, C, or D?
Yep.
It kind of
No,
depends
I
on what you
totally
want to
agree.
do.
Yeah, I mean it was especially with graphic creation and like HTML creation. You know, Grok was for sure superior to Gemini. Maybe 6 8 months ago when I was working on it, there were things that I would do that in Gemini where I'm like, God, this is like it's like going back to some dot matrix printer. I mean, it was some really weird output on HTML stuff where Grok was like, like a supercomputer. And then now, actually, I think I probably even prefer Gemini with some of that same HTML stuff because it seems, yeah, they all do different things, but it is amazing how quick the gap closes. And just when you think like last week it sucked, this week, wow, this is an entirely different thing. Yeah, it's really cool. I love where the tech is.
No, it's great. I mean, I always say it's like competition is good. Like
Yeah.
competition is really good. You shouldn't be upset that another competitor is like doing these features you like. You should love it because your company that you're using, they need to do the same thing. So the horse that
Yep.
you're backing or the horse that you're riding on, that's going to get the same upgrade coming soon, month,
Hmm.
couple weeks, whatever it may be. But bet you that they're working on it and they're trying their best. And
Yep.
every time a new model comes out, it puts a lot of pressure on the other company to come out with a new model, and then
Hmm.
you're reaping the rewards. The only thing I would say, I would like more open source models. Like I think
Yeah.
I get concerned about like 5 companies owning like the world's compute and logic, like where it's like I don't know. I mean, we've seen
Yeah.
sci-fi movies before, and that one never really works out. So I'd rather it to be like, okay, I don't have the compute, but at least I've got an open source, open weighted model where I can see the weights and I can see how
Yeah.
things are being done.
I
But
know.
that's
We'll see.
further away. So let's see.
We'll see. Like I said, I'm riding that wave until it kills us all.
Yes, yeah. At least you can make enough money to go mountain biking, and then if you need something to do something, you can prompt it with dispatch.
Yeah. I mean, before too long, I might like be homeless and just ride my mountain bike daily because there won't be any jobs left for us humans to do. It makes me feel dumb sometimes because I see how fast it can compute insane amounts of data. Meanwhile, I have a hard time spelling basic words sometimes. It's like
Yeah, I
I'm
feel
sitting
the
here,
same way.
typing and my brain is not fast, compared to it and it seriously you start to question, are we truly that superior, right? I mean, it's you see how powerful AI is, and
Yeah,
it's
we're saying
scary.
that now, but what about in 10 years? We'll see.
Aim for
This is
that.
a definite sidebar and off topic,
Yeah,
but I was telling a friend, I was like, once you get to quantum computing and then we have like nuclear power plants
yeah,
powering these AI, like I don't know. I think the whole societies, like people might get to the point where they start worshiping these like
yeah,
systems as if like they're their own prophet or something like that. It might run the
yeah,
government. I don't know. I mean, quantum computing plus AI is going to be something that we don't even know what the capabilities are. But
yeah,
that's a completely different like philosophical topic and not really on track with what Venture Step talks about. And
yeah.
it's
No, but it's
too bit
true.
broad of a topic to discuss like at the end of this episode too. But it's
Yeah.
a crazy thing to think about.
Well, a bit if you even just to take a side step to that is that we tying it into your audience too. We all are just a node to the computer, and what I mean by that, I was explaining this to my father-in-law the other day, that he is just a targeted interest. When you really think about it, we as a human, like my father-in-law, for example, he is a predefined interest point that he engages with the internet, with computers, right? But he is a predefined interest point. So things we know about him, he's a retired grandpa, loves golf, and more than anything, but watches hockey and all these things. And likes bourbon. In all those things those are all features of what is that person, that human, that basically terminal, right? And then he's the one giving that information to the internet. And then the internet is able to programmatically serve content to him. But when you really think about it, we really are already working for AI. We already are working for the internet. It already has all the data. We're just giving it the data that we exist with, and then it makes the decisions based upon what we exist with, more so than us telling it what to do. When you really think of it,
Yeah.
it's an inverse. It really is. But when you're on our side of the equation and you're trying to reach that person, you realize I'm defining my problem. The internet is taking that, whatever you want to call it, and then in that ecosystem is going and it's finding the other people that are engaging with it. It's giving their problem, their interests, and then it's connecting the dots to serve. And so it's really funny when you really think about it. We are already working for it
Are you
in all the
familiar with the dead internet theory, Josh?
I've heard of it. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know
so
about it.
the dead internet theory is like probably another weight of the equation, but basically when humans can't differentiate what is AI generated and what is real content,
Yeah.
then people just disengage. Like
Yeah.
if you can't tell what is real and what's not real, people just make the choices like, all right, well, this isn't for me. Is there any way that, or if you have people that want to get in contact with you or you want to share anything, like how would you like to do that? How would
Yeah,
you
I
like them to get
mean,
in contact
it's
with you?
easiest just to go to orangemud.com, go to our contact page, or sevenclay.com, go to our contact page. That's the easiest way to reach me. Or you can always connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm really easy to find. I'm pretty SEO easy to find when it comes to that
Yeah,
side of
you've set
things.
it up properly.
Yeah, that part's pretty good. You search for Josh Sprague or you look for Orange Mud or Seven.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. Of course, wherever you are in this world, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Thanks for listening in. Listen in next week.